I want to add into this conversation the voice of my colleague, Garrett Haake, who's live on Capitol Hill for us. And Garrett, I'm not sure how much of this you heard, but we're talking about how Kevin McCarthy's speech lays bare that this is the GOP. They are now one with QAnon. There is no remorse over defending her. There's no discomfort with defending her. And I know this from trotting out some of these dirty tricks, when you try to blame it on Democrats, this was a problem in and of the making of the right. This was a problem that Kevin McCarthy, he could have swept his own floor, and he chose not to. So we cut away from him when he started blaming Democrats for Marjorie Taylor Greene's social media posts. But I wonder whether it was as clear to everyone there that this was a signal, that this is who we are. We are going to be okay with the QAnon lady because she is us and we are her.
Absolutely. I mean, this devolved into a very tribal thing here. And I think part of the tell is, if you've been watching the floor the last half hour or so, after Kevin McCarthy, it's Jim Jordan and Louis Gohmert and the Freedom Caucus folks trying to make this processy argument here that this is about Democrats trying to cancel Republicans. But it just doesn't hold coming from those folks who've been making the same argument every time they got in trouble for something that they said over the last 2 years. But yeah, I mean, this has become purely tribal. And I think Anna touched on something that is so important, and it just sort of pull back and contextualize this whole debate a little bit. It is impossible to overstate how much the events of January 6th affected everybody who works up here, everybody who's a member of Congress, everybody who covers this place, everybody who had to live through this, even if you knew somebody up here, cared about somebody up here, and were watching it on TV. And nobody's gone to jail yet. I mean, people have been charged, but nobody's been convicted of anything yet. The impeachment trial hasn't started yet. Nobody's been really held accountable yet for the violence that was perpetrated on everyone up here. And I think with Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know, this is an opportunity to hold somebody accountable for the culture that led it to this point, for the willingness to let anything go, for the not willingness to clean their own house on the Republican side. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be the first person of many to be held accountable in some way for January 6th in a building, in a community that is just so scarred by that still, and anxious for justice and for healing and for sort of all the steps in that process. But like the fact of her endorsement of political violence, I keep going back to this, is just the thing that could no longer be tolerated by a community where hundreds of us, thousands of us at some point on that day were worried about our lives. And I just think that's the context you have to place this entire discussion in on why this action is happening now in the way it is.
Well, look, I can't imagine what you all must feel like who call that building your office. I mean, after 9/11, which is the only sort of modern parallel to a terror attack on a government institution where the press roams freely and where public officials work and their staff works, there was immediate bipartisan condemnation and a commitment by all the country's leaders. I remember Joe Biden's comments right after the attacks to get out and eradicate the root cause of, in that case, foreign terrorism. The root cause of the domestic terrorism that made that building that you go to work in every single day a crime scene is the big lie. And right now, people behind you, close to 150 Republicans voted to further the big lie after the attack, and 7 Republican senators did. So how do folks think that you get beyond the big lie, which put all of the violence in motion, if no one wants to get rid of the most egregious offender, the one who takes that big lie to its, as you said, to advocating for assassinations of Democratic leaders?
Right. I mean, look, and these are the actions that Congress can take. These are the actions that Democrats can take. They impeached the former president. They're going to strip Marjorie Taylor Greene of her committees. Those are the actions they can take. There are members of the Republican Party, including those who voted to, strip the electoral votes from these states, who I used to talk to every day as part of my job. And there are some who I still haven't been able to talk to since. You know, it's how do you deal with these people? And I deal from a professional distance that's available to me as a journalist that isn't available to other members who have to debate and sit next to these people in hearing rooms and deal with them on a closer level that even I don't have to do. So, like, you know, when I watch some of these same Republican members, and in this case they're all Republicans, blowing past magnetometers that were set up on the floor for their protection, physically pushing past Capitol Police officers to get on the floor after the violation that appeared up here on January 6th. I mean, it has broken the ability of folks to communicate and to give each other the benefit of the doubt here, and understandably so. I'm one of them. I don't know how we get past this, but these actions that are being taken here by the Democrats, I think you can understand it in that context. Is like, we can't solve all this. We can't go out and deal with every person who thinks they believe in QAnon everywhere else in the country. We can solve this. We can address this. We can do it right now. And I think that's part of the reason why they are acting in the way they are.
Do you feel safe?
Yes, I do now. Before January 6th, I thought this was the safest possible place I could be. I mean, my friends have been giving me a hard time for weeks because on that day when we knew there were protests, I joked like, don't worry, I'm not going to be on the protest. I'll be in the Capitol. I'll be fine. And it couldn't have been more wrong. I think I do again now, but the last month has been a lot of kind of getting used to a new normal up here at a place that felt safer than anywhere else you could possibly work in this city, except maybe the White House.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.